Here we go. Let's get a quick spin. Let's get a spin. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, you got to get it in.
Minnesota Vikings. This is easy. Mike Zimmer wants a guy that's polished. How about Jalen Phillips from Miami? This is a polished technician with outstanding athleticism. You put him opposite Daniil Hunter. Look out.
Love it.
Reckless speculation.
Love me some Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks reckless draft spin the wheel speculation there.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. Week out, you spin that damn wheel and let it come up where it does.
Hey, executive producer Declan, what needs to happen for us to get a wheel to spin?
Well, I can tell you right now, I'm not creative enough to make one, even despite my executive title. I will delegate that to the associate producers, I think, on the weekend. They're much more creative than me.
We'll assign it to Jason or AJ or something and see what happens. This is a Reckless Speculation Thursday on Mackie and Judd. We appreciate everyone who has either given us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple or who has subscribed to one of our 2 YouTube channels, SKOR North and Purple Daily. But Reckless Speculation Thursday means Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department and the Scoop Podcast, which you can find on SKORNorth.com, Apple, Spotify. Inside information about your favorite Minnesota sports teams. Hello, Darren.
Good morning, Phil. Here's how you get one of those wheels. It's called a bigger budget.
Yeah,
you make a phone call to Dan Seaman, the big boss, and say, hey, Dan.
Yeah, I think he's walking in right now. I'll just go get him.
There's been way too many budget cuts the last 13, 14 months. It's time to give back. We need one of those damn wheels.
What we need is a wheel.
Cut the check.
Yeah. Listen, we don't need any more full-time people.
Yeah.
We're fine, just the 3 of us. We just need a wheel.
The problem is that the line would be cut Judd, and then we get the wheel.
Judd or wheel?
Judd or wheel. Hey, it's Mackie and Declan here, and we got a wheel.
It's Mackie and the Wheel with executive producer Declan.
So, Wheel, that's a very tough call. What were you thinking?
So, Doogie, we are a week away from the NFL draft, and we're gonna be live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, so you can find us there. Just probably getting buzzed and spewing takes all throughout the night, but. What is we did a mock draft simulation a couple days ago here, and yes, we do mock draft simulations on this show. Trey Lance at one point fell to us. I woke up this morning. I was texting Declan Judd. I woke up this morning and fired up the Draft Network and just did my own, I was just kind of, all right, I'm looking for something to do here. I clearly have nothing else to do, so I'm just going to do a mock draft simulation. Justin Fields fell to us at 14.
Wait,
in that
hold on a
simulation.
second. So you cheated on us?
No,
he wasn't cheating on us.
No, you have the
He did his own draft simulation. I thought we were all in this together.
This is a monogamous relationship.
You've got the pro account. You're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine. But Doogie, let's just say for fun, let's just start here. If one of these quarterbacks like Trey Lance or Justin Fields or Mac Jones falls to 14, what do you think the Vikings do in that spot?
Well, I can tell you this much. Based on correspondence, Clint Kubiak, Vikings' new play caller, offensive coordinator, the one doing a majority of the quarterback work, that based on his correspondence with those in Fargo with the North Dakota State Bison football program, that Clint Kubiak and the Vikings, this is a collective opinion over from Egan, that they don't believe there is any scenario where Trey Lance gets to 14. That they like him. Don't get me wrong. They've done incredible homework on the Marshall, Minnesota native. I think if he somehow fell to 14, unless one of the tackles, one of the 2 main tackles, the Northwestern kid or the Oregon kid somehow falls, maybe then there would be an interesting decision to be made. But I think if Trey Lance is staring them in the face at 14, I think they would pull the trigger. I do. I don't know about Fields.
Yes.
Now we have the latest in the last 24 hours. Some of his battles with seizures, although it doesn't seem like there's any long-term concerns with that. I don't have a good sense right now, 1 week out. Plus, there's so many smoke screens anyway, so it's hard to know what information to trust, not trust. But I do feel confident that they have a healthy opinion of Trey Lance.
So if you were to give us your best guess right now, Dukes, on draft night, first round, 14th pick comes up, do you think that they make the selection, or do you think that there's a higher probability on if things are falling right that they actually trade back and try and take a defensive player, let's say in the 20s, and somehow, if they can, I think ideally in their world, recoup the second-round pick that went to Jacksonville in the Ngakoue trade?
Yeah, because you talk to enough evaluators, it's not like there's this one pass rusher that just jumps out at pick 14. Whether it's the 2 Miami guys, Kwity Paye from Michigan, there are question marks, some red flags with all those guys. It kind of depends on what body type maybe you want, what sort of athletic type you want. But there's not one obvious guy there at 14. So sure, if there's an opportunity, my question back to you, though, is who is jumping up? Now, I do think Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner, the Alabama wide receiver, is going to be there at 14. So maybe that is the guy. That's somebody. Baltimore, Tennessee, somebody with an obvious wide receiver need, Green Bay. Maybe somebody wants to jump up to 14, but then how far are you going backwards? I also would not necessarily rule out this scenario. Maybe it's only a 10 or 15% chance. But if one of those tackles gets to 7, 8, 9, Denver, George Payton, 7, Spielman's brother, Chris, very much involved in the Detroit Lions draft process.
The division.
I'm just saying, if one of those tackles, Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater, gets past, Cincinnati at 5, I don't think Miami at 6 is going tackle. So then all of a sudden, if both tackles are sitting there, 7, 8 into 9 into 10, like I'm positive, Judd. Like I saw Jerry Jones go on the record with this, or maybe it was Stephen Jones, somebody from the Cowboys. They're starting to pick up the phone, have trade dialogue. It's clear the Vikings have talked to the teams in front of them, right? Maybe they don't have a great idea on what it would take to move up 3, 4, 5 spots, but I'm just saying it is such a glaring need. And you look at the Vikings schedule this year, it always includes Khalil Mack in Chicago, but they have Cleveland. They have all these really good pass rushers on their schedule this year. Dallas, right, with Lawrence. You look at the schedule, they have this glaring need of needing a left tackle. Like, I think if there's a chance to move up, I wouldn't dismiss that possibility. I really wouldn't. Now, then it comes down to what's the compensation? Are you giving up your 2022 first to move up? And I would just say this. If you feel like Slater or Sewell has a chance to be a 10-year Pro Bowl type, maybe not even a Hall of Fame type. If you think he's a Hall of Famer, then yeah, it's a no-brainer. But if you just feel like, that guy has a chance to be a top-tier, upper echelon left tackle, you give up your 2022 first to go get that guy. Solve that position for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's more likely that they trade back in the first round than trade up, but I think it's very likely that they use the stash of 3rd and 4th round picks that they have to trade into the second round. So, that's just my amateur take on this. But
I don't think it's an amateur take, Phil. I think, logically speaking, there is a better chance they move back than move up. But I do think, they kick around all sorts of different scenarios, right? They are meeting for 12, 13, 14 hours a day. Undoubtedly, they've kicked around the idea of what will it take if one of those tackles falls. If one of those tackles, that we love, if Cincinnati doesn't go tackle at 5, I don't think they will. I think they'll go Jamar Chase of LSU. But you could make a case that Cincinnati should go tackle at pick 5. But if they don't, I'm just telling you, that is one scenario the Vikings have talked about. Hey, let's move up. Let's go get that left tackle.
Okay, here's another thing that some of this is more just like philosophically, what are they looking to do offensively? But there's been a couple scenarios in the simulations that we have done where Kyle Pitts has fallen into the teens. I don't think that's going to happen.
0% chance.
Oh, God.
0. I can just tell you based on a few text messages I could show you right now, there are so many Kyle Pitts fans. Like, of the non-quarterbacks, like, he is the guy. He is the man.
Yeah.
I will be shocked. There's not a whole lot I would bet on. It's tougher this year compared to previous years with no top 30 visits, no private workouts. So it's more complicated than ever from my standpoint. But, Phil, I'm just telling you, like, I feel uber confident that there is a 0% chance that Kyle Pitts gets to pick 14.
I'm comfortable with that. By the way, these scoops from Doogie today presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. So, listen, they can't help protect against your favorite offensive tackle getting drafted 5 spots before you draft, but they can protect you as a business owner If you're based in Minnesota, especially, they've been around for over 100 years in Owatonna, Minnesota. They have some of the best people in the business to help your business maximize its potential, help you sleep better at night with risk management tools. Find out more at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Judd, any other Vikings draft things you want to throw at Doogie here?
Yes. Dukes, let's go back to Trey Lance. And let's say Lance does fall, okay? I don't think he will, but let's say he does. And the Vikings pull the trigger on Trey Lance at 14. What's the internal discussion and potentially more juicy and more fun internal dissension? Because if, as we talked about on the show yesterday, if they do that, that's not a move that has anything to do with 2021. That's 2022. That's for sure 2023. And I told Phil this. To me, that move, which by the way, I would personally applaud. Like that's a great chance to take. But that move to me is a clear sign that Spielman would be severing himself from Zim. Because I'm sure Mike would say, hold on a second here. We have all these needs for 2021, and you're taking a quarterback, which is great for you, but I might get fired here. What do you think that dynamic would be like internally? Because I think it would be exciting. I think the fan base would buy it, but it also would do nothing for you short term as far as that first-round pick.
But would it help if in the conversations with Mark Wilf, with Ziggy Wilf, that you sell to them, hey, this is a 2 to 3 year process. Like, and if 2021 doesn't go well, like we're back in 2022. Can you give us some assurance that we can invest in this young quarterback, that you give us that leeway that regardless of how 2021 plays out, we're here not only in 2022, but likely in 2023 as well.
But what I'm saying is, would Rick go rogue to a certain degree to go away from Mike to?
Well, that's
to
not
have
Rick, right?
To have that discussion.
There's too much of a track record to suggest Rick won't do that, right? That Rick and Mike, for the most part,
people in jeopardy.
This is like what Doogie just brought up. I think we've had these discussions too, which is we always get to this fork in the road with Mike Zimmer, where it's like, well, it's just time to fire him. If you identify a quarterback of the future, then it's time to fire him. If I'm Mike Zimmer and I want to prolong my career with the Minnesota Vikings, and a quarterback is falling to 14 that could be a franchise guy for 8 to 10 years, that's exactly the conversation I'm having with the Wilfs, which is, hey, listen, we're going to compete like hell in 2021. Our defense is going to be better. Kirk Cousins was great in the second half last year. We're going to do whatever we can. But we're still a piece or two short from being a true contender because we just spent a first-round pick on a quarterback. But I want to develop this guy for 2022-23. Rick wanted to draft this guy for 2022-23. So instead of judging us based on if we can eke to 10 wins in 2021, judge us on a Super Bowl blueprint for the next 3 to 5 years. That's what the conversation should be, not how much toothpaste can you squeeze out of the tube this year by passing on Trey Lance in favor of Kwity Paye, for instance.
Let's morph this conversation into a more likely scenario where they take a quarterback in the middle rounds.
Sure.
That they don't go quarterback
Agreed.
in the first round, but maybe as soon as pick 78. Now, maybe 78 is packaged with another pick. You're right, Judd. I mean, Rick is going to make every effort possible to move back into the second round. But let's say they stick at 78. Let's say the Texas A&M quarterback, Kellen Mond, is staring them in the face at pick
Phil's
78.
Guy. Phil loves this kid.
How much does that change the conversation? Yeah, Phil, you love him. I talked, how about this for a name drop? Desmond Howard is doing some ABC, ESPN draft analysis. So I did a Zoom with Desmond on Tuesday. So I said to Desmond, hey, of the middle tier quarterback, so not Jones, not the presumed first round guys, of the middle tier guys, who's one guy you really like? Who did Desmond say? Kellen Mond. The Vikings have done unbelievable homework on Kellen Mond. Now, does that mean they love him? I can't tell you that definitively, but my sense is there are Kellen Mond fans in Eagan. So let's say Mond is staring them in the face at 78. Does that change things, or can we have that same conversation we just had?
No, I think you're far
with the first round quarterback.
I think that in their world that's probably ideal because I think the Wilfs buy in. I think Zim says, okay, I'd like a defensive player here, but that's okay. I'm saying the first round dynamic intrigues me because what Phil said is correct. It's not how the Vikings think, though. Like, they took Bradbury in the first round. And if they tell you that that was not a stretch and a reach, they're lying, okay? So what Phil said would be the ideal conversation for the Vikings to have. I believe the reality is that they think first-round pick is going to help us. But where you are going to, Dukes, actually makes the most sense from their standpoint then, because I think that you can sell a pick like Mond to everybody. I think Zim buys into that. I think Spielman does. I think the Wilfs do.
Does Kirk buy into that?
Of course he doesn't, and I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, that's the obvious response. I mean, if you're Kirk, who gives a bleep?
Mm-hmm.
And really, like if Kellen Mond, the selection of Kellen Mond in the third round throws Kirk for a loop, like, give me a break.
Seriously.
Dukes,
and I don't think it would, by the way.
They told that kid from the Calgary bleeping Stampeders of the CFL who said, I want to compete. Oh, that's not what we really want.
I remember that.
So Kellen Mond would bother Kirk. There's no doubt in my mind it would bother Kirk.
Yeah. I do think they're taking a quarterback at some point. Like, I'm positive they are taking a linebacker at some point. Most likely day 3, not day 1 or day 2, but they are taking a linebacker. Undoubtedly, they are taking a pass rusher. In fact, I know Andre Patterson and the assistant defensive line coach had yet another Zoom conversation with a middle tier. I won't say his name quite this second, but they had like a third or fourth Zoom with a guy yesterday. So they are taking a pass rusher at some point. I think they take a safety at some point. I think they take a cornerback at some point. Maybe tight end. I still think they take multiple offensive linemen. I think it's 2. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd put the over-under at 1.5. I'd bet the over. I think they take 2 offensive linemen, and I think they take a quarterback. I do. Now, running back, they can use one, right? Lose Boom, but you'll find one in undrafted free agency. They could use a kicker to compete with Joseph, but I think you end up signing a guy undrafted free agency. But when it comes to the 10 draft picks, and 10 may end up as 9 or 8, but I'm just telling you, all those positions I just named, I feel confident that they are going to take those positions.
All right, you guys ready to pick up the Twins scab here off of the late innings yesterday? All right, Doogie, if I'm in the Twins clubhouse right now, this is just my own personal opinion. If I'm in the Twins clubhouse right now, and yesterday was a back and forth slugfest, hard fought, a lot of things not going right, but you have a chance to win that game, and a routine bouncing ball to Travis Blankenhorn's left is turned into a Tsuyoshi Nishioka disaster mess and extends the game, and then Arise throws a ball into the stratosphere. I'm looking over at Andrelton Simmons, who's probably not in the clubhouse because he has COVID, and I'm thinking, all right, dude, listen, I don't want to get into like an anti-vax debate, but your personal stance on not getting a vaccine has directly led to multiple players missing from the roster, including yourself, and directly led to Travis Blankenhorn being in over his head in a late inning situation. Like, it wouldn't. What's happened the last week would not sit well with me personally if I were in the Twins clubhouse, Doogie.
I think that dynamic absolutely exists right now, Phil. I'm not sure the Twins, like other teams, like the St. Louis Cardinals and others, will reach the 85% threshold when it comes to guys that have been vaccinated. So that means that the Cardinals, other teams that do get to that 85% mark, they can do certain things. They can leave the hotel. They can go to Topgolf. They can do all sorts of different things on the road. I don't know if the Twins are going to get there. And that, to me, would create just unbelievable friction. If you're Nelson Cruz, like, how are you not pissed off? Other guys, right? And so there has to be all sorts of peer pressure for the Simmonses of the world. Just go get the damn vaccine. There's enough science out there. Do your research, but just do it for the greater good of the chemistry in this clubhouse. But yeah, no doubt in my mind, it's a really, really awkward clubhouse right now. It is.
And the problem is that we don't, like, now it's too late. So now he didn't, and he spread this thing, and yeah.
Well, it's not too late. I mean, he can still get the vaccine. You need to wait a certain amount of time.
No, but
he could still get the vaccine.
No, I'm saying that the first damage is done now because he got sick. He spread it. They've got it. They've they're trying to make up games now. At some point in time, someone's going to have to make up 2 games on the West Coast. And so, like, this whole thing is now a huge pain.
And by the way, the Twins are not good in 7-inning games, right?
No, and they're not
that's
good
got
in
disaster
extras,
written all over
and they're
it.
not good in extras. What's your personal opinion about this? Because right now, this thing looks like it's going off the tracks. And it's 16 games in or so. So it's not, we're not 20 games in. So it's still very early in the season. But what's your personal opinion about what we're seeing here and the dynamic of it feels like some years things start to go wrong and they don't come back? Are we going down that path, in your opinion, Dukes?
Well, it is odd. I mean, how they've lost a few games where the win probability was 96%, 98%. Let's not forget they blew a 6-run lead to Seattle. I mean, they've lost so many weird ways, right? You lose that 6-run lead, end up losing that game to the Mariners. You don't score 2 days ago, 2 7-inning, double-header type situation. You don't score over those 14 innings. Then the way Wednesday played out, right? Blowing 4 different leads. Colome blowing 2 save opportunities. But, do I think, as I look at the standings, the 2 worst teams in the American League right now, the New York Yankees and the Minnesota Twins. Exactly. Do I think it'll end up like that in late September? No. Do I have a strong belief that this is going to keep spiraling out of control for the Twins? Not necessarily. Mm-hmm. If you look at the next 14 to 16 games, I think we'll learn a lot more in the next 2.5 weeks. Look at the schedule. It's the Pirates. It's the Indians. It's the Royals. Phil, do you have the schedule handy, or Declan? The next 16 games will tell us a lot, because over the next 16 games, they need to find a way to go at least 9-7, but more like 10-6, maybe even 11-5.
Yeah, they have Pittsburgh for 3, at Cleveland for 3, versus Kansas City for 3, versus Texas for 4, Detroit for 4, and then you'll get some meat and potatoes with Chicago and Oakland.
Okay, but through the Detroit series, those are a lot of winnable games. But then we thought that about the Red Sox games here, right? The Mariners games here. But these next 16, they need to rattle off 9 or 10, if not 11 or 12 victories. I think we'll know more in the next 2.5 weeks. But right now, I don't have a great cause for concern. On individuals, I do. Like Colome is Ron Davis right now, right? So that's a concern. Miguel Sano is a concern. There needs to be multiple roster moves later today or tomorrow morning. Alex Kirilloff, Cody Stashak. Those 2 need to be in the Twins clubhouse tomorrow. The Saints are doing a sim game this afternoon. Nice. I don't know if Stashak is pitching or not. Hopefully he's not. But Stashak needs to be back with the Twins tomorrow. They need to call up Alex Kirilloff. Right now, you've got Tellis on the 26-man roster. You've got Blankenhorn on the 26-man roster. Come on. Get Alex Kirilloff up here. I may even take it a step further. Call me nuts. I'm Jake caved out. If you want him as the 4th outfielder, fine. But
you've
I'm
come
Jake
to the right
caved
party
out.
here.
Yeah, you're on the right show, man.
At the plate. It's Trevor Larnach time.
God.
He's not a young guy. He's a college guy. It's not like they drafted him at 17.
Speculation.
Yeah.
And I get it. Last year was a throwaway year. He could use some AAA at bats. So maybe right this second is a bit aggressive, but I want Trevor Larnach in the outfield here pretty darn quick.
Doogie, I'm watching Brent Rooker play right
and then
field
Kirilloff
yesterday.
at first base. And you limit the Miguel Sano at bats.
Yeah, I'm watching Brent Rooker play right field yesterday. Do you have an update on his 2 torn Achilles tendons?
Oof.
Or his 2 Butcher of Edward Scissorhands.
I still think there's something there with Rooker.
Does he have 6 torn knee ligaments that I don't know about? Is he carrying an invisible piano around with him in right field? What is
he
what
has
is wrong?
swung and missed
dude.
some pitches that I know he can hit. So I don't know what the heck's going on with Rooker right now. I'm not off the Rooker bandwagon, but I don't want him as an everyday guy right now.
Not in your outfield, you don't.
So I'm willing to mix it up a little bit. Certainly Kirilloff. Alex Kirilloff.
Kirilloff can come up now, right?
Needs to be, I
we're
think it's today, isn't it? Or it's tomorrow. It's April 22nd or April 23rd.
He got the 1 day because they called him up for the splitty against the Red Sox, right? So he got 1 day. So I think it backed it up. It was originally April 16th.
Okay, so we're even a few days. So, yeah.
So I think he can be up
so
for tomorrow's
good.
game.
Yeah, you get the
Pirates.
extra year of 2027. Who cares right now about 2027? have to have Kirilloff in the lineup tomorrow. Like that to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah. There are certain things you can fix, and I think certain things that will be fixed. There's a couple things that can't be fixed when it comes to the Twins that I worry about. And it's this. It goes back to last year too. I mean, there's been playoff yips and whatnot, but there was a couple plays defensively last year where like the moment just swallowed guys up. The Jorge Polanco errant throw in the game against the Astros in the
Although
playoffs.
his ankle was so messed up, he should not have been playing all those games last year. His ankle was more messed up than anybody knew. Then we found out after the fact. I actually ended up doing an interview with him via his agent with the translating. But like Jorge told me, like he battled through. Like there's no way he should have played almost every day last year.
Then you guys remember there was a tailor-made triple play hit at Luis Arraez last year, and he sort of freaked out, like didn't know what to do, what base to throw it to. A couple other instances in the playoffs where guys just had to do basic things to move runners or defensively, and Jake Cave with these errant dives in the outfield. Then yesterday, two just basic defensive plays. Yeah, and the pressure's sort of high, but it's also Wednesday in Oakland, the third week in the season. But in that moment, Blankenhorn was clearly swallowed up. Arraez was clearly swallowed up. That ball didn't just like slip out of his hand. He was nervous.
Did he make a mistake at all? Could he have gotten the runner running to third base? Now,
I think close. It was
the
close.
logical play is you field the ball, you make the throw across the
Yes.
diamond. I understand his thought process there, but I just wonder in hindsight
But
if he
here's
should
the
have
thing,
just
like,
run over to the third base bag and tagged the bag.
You've got a manager that really, like, his main attribute, he's supposed to specialize in being super level-headed and meditative. That, listen,
Which he
guys,
is. I don't think anybody
okay?
would debate that.
So why does the team clam up in big spots? And if that's the case, then he clearly isn't effectively conveying his meditative state to some of these players. Like, why are you getting that nervous on a basic throw from third to first? But they've got the game's on the line. Oh my God! And, like, throw the ball into the upper deck. Like, it's infuriating to me.
The Blankenhorn one, you can't make up. Like, really.
What is
like,
he doing?
My
Is it
10-year-old.
the first time he's
Droogie
ever
watched
seen a
it and
ground
goes,
ball?
Dad, I make that play. And, like, I feel
Yeah, I'm
confident
with Droogie.
that he
I'm
would.
with him.
Dude, he's
Like, he practices every day. He loves it. Like, I'm positive.
Call him
That
up.
routine ground ball,
Call Droogie up.
he makes that play. My 10-year-old makes that play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
he's
mean-
a good player for his age. He's not an all-star for his age. And
Yeah.
he makes that play.
I'm sorry,
Like, I don't
he
know how
can't-
Blankenhorn blew that. I really don't.
He cannot be on the team today. You can't be that nervous and that just like completely inept. And maybe he'll be ready. He was a third-round pick. Maybe he'll be ready in a year to play in the major leagues. But when your emotions are that absolutely just overtaken by a Wednesday game in Oakland, third week in the regular season, it's time to go take some deep breaths in St. Paul. I'm sorry.
My two problems with that game, among them, my two biggest problems are this. Maeda start, what the hell is going on? And Colome, who came in the ninth of a wild game. I mean, this is the definition of what a closer should do, right? Been a wild game, but we're up by one. Oh, my God. Oh, here's a save. Look at that. Now we're going home, and the trip sucked, but at least we won. When it's like the Twins have spent the first 2 weeks of this year with a gasoline can and matches. And everywhere that they go, they pour the gasoline out, Dukes, and they take the matches and throw it on and say, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And, of course, it blows up. But the Maeda start was brutal, like concerningly bad. I hope that's not a sign of
Although
things
that
to
Oakland
come.
lineup,
Yeah, but...
like, they just don't I really
No,
like
they
that
don't.
lineup.
I love them. And look, every year they're incredible because every year they should be horse bleep and they're good and they've got some great players. But that being said, Maeda's the exact guy that you wanted to send out for that start yesterday, I thought. And it could not have gone worse. You know, if he got through 5 or something, you're like, okay, it wasn't great, but it wasn't. But I mean, that whole thing just, to me, fed into what the meltdown of the first 2 weeks of the 2021 Twins season has been.
And that's why when I say that there are individual concerns from my standpoint, that on a collective basis, I still feel okay. Plus, hey, I think every team in the division has some warts right now.
Yep.
You know, so I don't think the White Sox, I don't think anybody's winning 94 games in this division. Okay. Like, you may end up winning the Central at 89 or 90. But, like, yeah, it's the two guys you just mentioned. It's Sano, like, go up and down the list. And, like, Phil, on Colome, And he's now Alexander. Like, when did that happen?
What?
He's been Alex for how long? And all of a sudden now he's Alexander.
The last couple weeks.
All right, Alexander.
I want to go back to Alex.
Doesn't he have, like, any swing and miss type stuff, Phil?
Yeah.
Like, I thought at some point
He does, yes.
he could induce a swing and a miss.
No,
he's not inducing any swings and misses right now.
Yeah, this is as bad as he's looked in probably several years. I think he's going to be fine at some point. It's not like he's throwing, his velocity is still touching mid-90s, but so this is going to be really stat nerdy, but he gets swings and misses on 25% of swings in his career. So, now, is he Josh Hader? No, but he gets more swings and misses than you've seen in the last few outings for sure. So he doesn't have command, clearly doesn't have confidence. He's just nibbling on the edges. And I think he gets thrown for a loop when, like yesterday, there was a couple at bats where guys would foul off on strike two or three times, and he just doesn't know what to do. So he starts nibbling, and he's afraid of contact. And I would be too if I had spaz infielders, because Andrelton Simmons is going to be out for another week. So, anyways,
that's why I think when they do have their full complement, when Kepler's back, when Thielbar's back in the bullpen, they missed Thielbar yesterday, right? And he's not positive. I texted with Caleb the other day. This is contact tracing.
Yeah.
So it's hard for him to wrap his arms around that. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't have it, but now I'm on this COVID list, and I can't help my team win a game in Oakland. But when they get Thielbar back, Kepler, Simmons, get all these guys back, I still think they're a pretty good team. I do.
All right, we know that you have to go here, Doogie. So any parting scoop shots here before we say goodbye?
We should get some news. I swapped messages with Philip Rabrasha, North Dakota basketball transfer. Had a really good game against the Gophers in December at the barn, 20-something points. He's one of the better players, probably top 100 right now in the portal. The portal includes over 1,200 players right now. I actually think it's closer to 1,400. I mean, it's free agency in college basketball. But anyway, Ben Johnson did another Zoom with him earlier this week. Rabrasha told me his decision is imminent. So that could be later today, could be tomorrow. I suppose it could be Saturday, but sometime here pretty quick. It seemingly is down to, now Rick Pitino is pushing hard at Iona, but it looks like for Rabrasha, the Gophers or the Iowa Hawkeyes. So a nice little battle, Minnesota and Iowa. I mentioned to Judd the other day, but I'll mention to you, Phil, and anybody that maybe didn't watch us on Tuesday. Tuesday was such a hectic day with the verdict. So I get it that our conversation got lost. Tom Curvers, Wild assistant general manager. Just if you're into prayer, he's got inoperable lung cancer. Just if you're into prayer, or just if you're not, just have Tom Curvers in your thoughts. Great guy.
Too bad.
And yeah, I mean, he's not even 60 years old, and it's not going well right now. So just thoughts and prayers out to Tom Curvers.
All right. Doogie, thanks for joining as always. And people can find, so there's going to be 3 doses of Doogie every single week. His Scoop podcast on SKORNorth.com, and you can also find it on KSTP.com. And then bonus Scoop with Judd on Tuesdays on Mackie and Judd. And then the main event Scoop here also on Thursdays on the show. So, Doogs, we'll talk next week, man.
Thank you, Phil. Then
3
conversations
doses.
I've had the last few days, Mark Coyle, Desmond Howard, my buddy Thor Nystrom, who
Nice.
covers the draft for formerly Roto World. It's now NBC Sports Edge, but he's a draft aficionado. We went for 45 minutes, bunch on the Vikings, bunch on Rashad Bateman. So I've got those conversations to get out there. Peyton Willis, I caught up with the new Gophers guard, the old Gophers guard, who is now the new Gophers guard, who right now is their starting point guard. I caught up with Peyton. I caught up with Parker Fox after he committed to the Gopher basketball team. So I've got all those conversations to get on, whether it's my next scoop or maybe a couple scoops. I've got those conversations to get out there in the coming days.
Love it. Love it.
And Mark
All right.
Coyle was good. I mean, I talked to Mark for 30-something minutes. Judd, at the end, I brought it up that he should do more.
Yep.
And he said, yeah. And he goes, Doogie, I get my second vaccine here in a few weeks. And I told him that I am too. He goes, let's get together for lunch. Coffee. He's not a coffee guy. He's a hot chocolate guy. But he goes, let's get together and
Always not a
formulate
coffee guy.
some
I'm done
sort
with
of plan. And I even said to Mark, I go, not just me.
no, you
the
should
other
just say
TV
you.
stations in
No,
town.
no, screw them.
But
Just me.
yeah, so we're going to come up with something where hopefully Mark does a little bit more in terms of interviews.
Cool.
All
All
the
right,
scoops.
Doogs. Thanks,
Okay.
buddy.
See you, boys.
All right,
Bye.
it's Darren Doogie Wolfson from 5 Eyewitness News. All right.